Hey everyone, we were up all night last night on a mission protecting this entire region, but I want to tell you how excited I am towards tomorrow's event, thanking all of our brave soldiers for their service for over 120 days. We are almost there, almost reached our goal, but we need your help, your assistance, and your contribution in order to make sure and guarantee that tomorrow's event happens.
קוראים לי חיים עד, אני סמל מחלקה בפלוגה ג' גדוד 5030. אנחנו עדיין משרתים בגבול לבנון, בצפון, כמו שאתם רואים קר וגשום, ואנחנו ממש צריכים חליפות שערה איכותיות כדי שנוכל להישאר יבשים בגשם ולעמוד במשימה שלנו.
So on this channel, we've looked a lot at the IDF, particularly their presence on social media. We've looked at the IDF official TikTok page, and we've also looked at IDF TikTok influencers and podcasters. Obviously very dystopian. And we've also looked at the IDF YouTube channel, and it seems like this army has quite a bit of money to throw around. And as we're going to speak about in a sec, they also actually get military aid from the United States every single year. But also now I am getting adverts on Instagram of IDF soldiers e-begging for equipment. Why would this army, funded by all the Western powers and even gets financial aid from the US, why do they need my money? Why is there pages asking me to donate combat equipment and a drone? And also, how is this even legal considering what's going on right now? Again, it's absolutely insane that stuff like this is allowed. And we all know if this was another army, if this was the Iranian military promoting all this stuff on Instagram, it probably gets shut down pretty quickly. So today I'm going to look at some of these IDF e-beggars and actually look at a platform which is pretty much designed for crowdfunding, for stuff to do with the Israeli military, among other things. And then to talk about like the actual reporting on this issue of loads of shortages in the IDF. And guess who gets the shortages? It's all the reservist conscripts. And you'd think, because these conscripts get treated so badly compared to the professional soldiers, they would maybe like not serve, but that seems to be a very, very small and minor movement in Israel itself, because the whole country has basically been swept into fascist hysteria. So you're not getting too many people who are called to serve in the military right now refusing. The only major pushback you see is suddenly when they want to conscript the ultra-Orthodox, they have a problem because they've had the cushy position of not actually having to serve in the IDF. So all of that coming up for you today. Speaking of Instagram, follow me on Instagram at the Kavernacle on my main Instagram account and my travel account. Also, I don't use Twitter anymore, really, but follow me on Threads and Blue Sky. And also consider becoming a patron if you want to get access to the Discord server and give me a message once you've signed up. And all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. So it's been a big scandal recently in the US that Biden's poll numbers are doing really bad because he can't stop supporting Israel. And loads of his sycophants in the media keep reporting that he's growing frustrated with Netanyahu. He's had an angry phone call with Netanyahu. But that doesn't really seem to translate into him actually doing anything to stop funding the Israeli military. And also Israel recently directly targeted aid workers who came from the United Kingdom and America as well. And it's pretty clear they did this on purpose. But it doesn't matter for Biden. US recently authorized more bombs for Israel. The Biden administration recently authorized the transfer of over 1,500 pound bombs and over 1,000 small diameter bombs to Israel, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. And Josh Paul, who worked in the State Department's Bureau of Political Military Affairs for over a decade before resigning in October over the US's ongoing arms transfers to Israel, told CNN that the State Department has the ability to suspend any approval even after the fact, which, given the circumstances, you'd think they'd at least consider. And last week, the US authorized the transfer of similar weapons, and CNN has previously linked these weapons to mass casualty events in Gaza, including in refugee camps. So I was just reading an article today as well, which outlines US financial support to Israel, just to frame this video. So US aid to Israel in 4 charts. Israel has been the largest cumulative recipient of US foreign aid since its founding, receiving about $300 billion in total economic and military assistance. And here you see a graph of how much more it gets than most. but also notably Egypt gets a lot. It kind of plays into my video about Richard Dawkins the other day, where I talked about military dictatorships in the Muslim Arab world, which are propped up by the United States. So how does Israel use the aid? Most of the aid, approximately $3.3 billion a year, is provided as grants under the Foreign Military Financing Program, which funds that Israel must use to purchase US military equipment and services. I do love how the aid is conditioned on Israel buying weapons from the US. Essentially, it's like the US just paying arms manufacturers by giving your money, taxpayer money, to Israel so they can buy from American corporations to then attack Palestinians, right? It's absolutely sickening that this is what US tax dollars go towards. But it's also historically been permitted to use a portion of this aid to buy equipment from Israeli defense firms, a benefit not granted to any other recipient of US military aid. And additionally, $500 million a year is slated for Israeli and joint US-Israeli missile defense programs. I thought that was important information for people to just know, like, generally, that a country with, you know, even universal healthcare is getting massive amounts of aid from the United States, more than any other country, and this isn't a poor country either. But it's also specifically going to a lot of military things. So not only does Israel spend loads on its military anyway, it has pretty much the most militarized society in the entire world in terms of people who are in either the military or in the reserves, and of course, you know, just militarized in general, that carrying around firearms seems to just be like the most normal thing ever, even more so than America. So with all that money, all the money that Israeli firms make selling weapons around the world as well, you'd think that Israeli soldiers wouldn't be lacking in military equipment. But apparently now, they actually are, and they're begging for money to continue to carry out horrible acts on the Palestinians. But also in some of these videos, they're not even near Palestine. They're talking about being near like Jordan and Lebanon, but you should still donate to them because they're having shortages and they're putting their life on the line to make sure Israel is safe. So I want to look at some of these weird adverts I've been getting on Instagram before going into like who is promoting this, how you can donate, and apparently it's even tax deductible in America. Isn't that lovely as well? Before just getting into the whole background issue of the IDF apparently relying on civilian donations and like these massive activist campaigns about getting these people more military equipment. So let's have a look at some of these adverts.
Hey everyone, over 120 days passed since our entire squad left everything, left our families, our friends, left our home to come and enlist to the IDF on October 7th. I want to say we've gone through a lot. Our squad, 5035B, has been protecting the Jordan Valley, the northern Jordan Valley, from the Jordan border until Nablus. We've been doing an incredible job, and it is time to thank the entire squad. This Wednesday, we have an event for 80 of our soldiers to say thank you for everything you've been doing. Thank you for sacrificing your life for the people of Israel. We would love for you to join us, to contribute, and to be part of this event. Anything that you can do to help would be truly appreciated.
קוראים לי חיים עד, אני סמל מחלקה בפלוגה ג' גדוד 5030. אנחנו עדיין משרתים בגבול לבנון, בצפון, כמו שאתם רואים קר וגשום, ואנחנו ממש צריכים חליפות שערה איכותיות כדי שנוכל להישאר יבשים בגשם ולעמוד במשימה שלנו. תודה רבה על התרומה, אוהבים אתכם, עם ישראל חי.
חייבים לנצח!
We were up all night last night on a mission protecting this entire region, but I want to tell you how excited I am towards tomorrow's event, thanking all of our brave soldiers for their service for over 120 days. We are almost there, almost reached our goal, but we need your help, your assistance, and your contribution in order to make sure and guarantee that tomorrow's event happens. So please click on the link here and make it happen. Thank you so much. We love you all.
So basically in two of those videos by the same person, the guy wearing the mask and the guy talking to the camera, they're asking for money for like some sort of barbecue for soldiers, and we'll talk about that. But another one of them was asking for winter clothing basically, or something to keep away the rain near Lebanon and stuff. And I just find it funny that these people, they think they're defending their country from evil, they're willing to put their lives on the line because they love their country so much, but their country doesn't even love them enough to equip them with the right gear, despite the fact it actually gets like loads and loads of military aid from the United States as well. I don't think this country actually cares about you too much, conscript soldiers in the IDF. Now, you might have noticed this on some of the posts, but this was a sponsored post by a guy called Maya Malik, and he has been organizing some of these campaigns. Now, I was looking into this guy and some of the other guys that appears on these videos, and who he is, I think, he's basically like an Israeli musician, I think, who plays concerts for the IDF around these bases and does crowdfunding for their barbecues and everything. So if you go on his actual social media pages and like look what he posts, it's like really, really gross. And you know, with a lot of stuff in Israel, just like the innocent image a lot of people like portray themselves while supporting the most gross crimes against humanity is probably the weirdest thing about all of this. Like, framing everything they're doing is actually a good thing is just so insane to me. If you follow through on the links these adverts had, it takes you to something called the Chesed Fund. Some people call it the Hesed Fund. I mean, I don't really care what it is, but here you have the Notes of Strength thing they're organizing. Apparently they need $300,000 to organize this. But what is interesting, on this fundraiser itself, you also have loads of little sponsorship opportunities apparently to buy IDF soldiers their equipment. So you get stuff like gloves, winter outfits, boots, helmets, all that stuff. But then I kept scrolling, thinking I was going to get one for weapons, but I did get one for a thermal drone you can buy for $6,000. And again, like, how is that legal? How is that legal for me as a British person or as an American to buy an IDF soldier a drone? Or even buy them any of this equipment? I find, you know, very bizarre you can do this. And like I said, it says somewhere on the website that it's actually tax deductible as well. So if you go on this website, there's just so much crowdfunding for Israeli military stuff or even Israeli police forces. You have campaigns about buying soldiers helmets, which go for like $400 each apparently. It seems to be a post by the Chesed Fund itself, which is just meant to be a platform for crowdfunding for, you know, apparently Jewish community goals or Jewish projects and stuff. It says, in it together, join worldwide initiatives at the Chesed Fund to assist our brethren in Israel. So the Chesed Fund is ardently working to provide essential support to those in dire need in Israel. Our platform is not merely a crowdfunding site, but a vital community of individuals bound together by heritage and history to provide urgent assistance and resources during these trying times. The attacks have left many in desperate circumstances, and the need for aid is palpable and immediate. The Chesed Fund serves as a crucial link to these initiatives, ensuring that essential supplies reach those most critically impacted by the ongoing situation. But yeah, it's obviously pretty clear this crowdfunding website, which in the past they framed it as something like pretty neutral, just a place for people to post stuff. Pretty clear they completely endorse what Israel's doing, and you can find so many different fundraisers for loads of different things to do with equipment, and a lot of it is organized by American Zionist organizations. You get a lot of YouTube videos of people going on like Fox News to talk about all these crowdfunding campaigns, like mainly to get these IDF soldiers equipment. But like I said, some of them are for barbecues from musicians, and it seems to be the price is pretty insane for what it is. And if I'm honest, with a lot of crowdfunding, I suspect there's probably a high degree of scams involved, because if you pledge money to donate, you know, stuff to the IDF through this crowdfunding site, how are you really ever going to know it's going to reach their hands? Like, if you donate a pair of gloves, is that soldier going to send you a photo of them wearing the gloves? Is the organization going to take a photo of what you specifically bought? No, it relies on the, I wouldn't call it goodwill, it relies on the bad will of people around the world to fund this stuff. And I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but I bet there's a lot of skimming off the top at the very least, and probably a fair few like maybe outright scams on there. Because yeah, if you're going to give money to this stuff, I don't know how much you're going to be going after trying to find out if your money actually went there, especially if it's on a website like this. Now, the CTO is a guy called Avi Kahat, and I pretty much couldn't find anything about him. The only interviews I read were him talking about making a crowdfunding site and talking about how, you know, it's better than others because they don't take a massive chunk of your actual, you know, crowdfunding. It all goes directly to these things. But the CEO is interesting. He's called Yoshi Fauber. I was just looking through like his work history. The only one that popped out at being weird was he was the marketing director between 2013 and 2016 for Thank Israeli Soldiers in Jerusalem. And if I go on this website, it says, our story, Thank Israeli Soldiers was officially founded in 2005 by a couple who moved to Israel from the US. The story began in 2001 when the husband arrived home before the Rosh Hashanah dinner and told his wife there was a problem. He said, we were about to sit out for a lovely dinner with family and friends, and I just passed all these young soldiers with guns protecting us so we can sit comfortably. There's something wrong with this picture. We have to do our part. That night, they brought dinner to the soldiers, guarding them. Then they had the idea. They started bringing cakes and drinks to the soldiers in the area. Others heard about it and joined, some 50 to 100 at a time. It was clear that people from all over the world wanted to show their gratitude, and soldiers truly enjoyed the appreciation. Together with a group of devoted participants, Thank Israeli Soldiers was created. They began bringing barbecues to the bases to show the soldiers firsthand how much they care. They then started a package program as a peacetime effort to show gratitude to soldiers all over the country. So it's pretty funny, the guy who was the marketing director for that has now basically changed the crowdfunding platform into that organization, in that it's serving basically the same purpose of raising money to give Israeli soldiers equipment or even barbecues and care packages. So basically all these organizations are forming into one where it's all to serve the IDF. Again, it's really funny considering Israel spends so much on its military that it actually needs all this support. Now, obviously it's really dystopian to be getting very happy Instagram ads of IDF soldiers begging you to give them a winter coat because they're so cold. But this has actually been a problem, not just at the start of what's recently been going on, but also more recently as well. It's still a problem that their equipment is pretty terrible for the reservists. So Business Insider reported in October, Israeli soldiers are relying on donations for necessities, including underwear, as critics say government is failing to support its forces. So it says a volunteer effort has sprung up across the country to supply troops with needed supplies. Everything you can imagine, one person said, from vests to knee protectors to helmets to flashlights to underwear. An IDF spokesperson, the best liars on earth, denied that there were shortages in a statement to Insider, saying there is no shortages of equipment for combat soldiers. So another story, IDF reservists shocked to be provisioned Vietnam War era equipment. A note dated August 22nd, 1963 was discovered this week inside the packaging of a flak jacket provisioned by the IDF to an Israeli reserve soldier. Dear soldier, it read, a vest has no value if it lies on the side and not on your body. Signed, U.S. Army, Natick, Massachusetts, 22nd of August, 1963. The vest, over 60 years old, likely predates nearly all the soldiers and officers in the IDF. On the logistical front, the IDF claimed to have ceramic vests for all regular and reserve personnel, attributing any supply delays solely to organisational issues within the supply chain. Despite these assurances, private entities and citizens successfully procured, air transported and distributed thousands of ceramic vests in the first 2 weeks of the war. However, for the import of military or semi-military equipment into Israel, a recognised security body needs to sign the documents to ensure the clearance of this equipment through customs. So, although the IDF has often been hailed as one of the best militaries in the entire world, and part of the reason the US decided to become besties with the IDF was because of how they fought in the 6-Day War, in that they fought all these Arab nations together and they won pretty decisively. So they thought, oh great, we don't need to actually be stationed everywhere in the Middle East. We'll just get Israel to do our fighting for us and serve as our proxy. But obviously as time has gone on and Israel's become more friendly with the countries it used to fight wars against, and pretty much it only fights insurgent groups now, it seems like it just lives on its reputation. And now there's also, speculation that they're grossly underestimating or just lying about their casualty figures, because it seems to actually be far higher than they're saying. But as you probably know from any period of history, it's really common for governments to lie about war casualties, because if you start telling people the truth, then they won't support a war as much. But you're seeing this in Ukraine as well. When you flood a country with arms and just equipment, lots of it goes missing because there's so much of it. There's not a proper organisation in place to actually distribute it properly. So what you end up is with a lot of people in Ukraine and with the Israel reservists, people using terrible, outdated equipment because a lot of the good stuff has been sold on the black market and stolen. And it seems like this is happening now in Israel with just random people selling equipment online. So an article by Yuval Sadi, from battlefield to bargain bin, IDF soldiers flood online market with unused combat equipment. Mepro Light M5 sight, 2,500 shekels. Infrared night vision equipment for a range of up to 250-300 meters, price 450 shekels. Tactical helmets on sale, 1,200 shekels. These ads and hundreds of similar ones have been filling the online sales and buying boards on Facebook and Telegram in recent days. Calculus spoke with IDF soldiers who returned home with private combat equipment, which was not used, with an aggregate value of tens and hundreds of thousands of shekels. Some of them store this equipment in their home for future use, but the rest prefer to sell it for financial gain. One of the ads on Facebook explains, sold due to leaving Gaza and returning to normal. I will not need these things. The result is chaos, surpluses in one place, which are rolled into the private market, and shortages in another, which are evident in many ads of fighters who are still looking for equipment. So this is recently, so looking for a Mepro Light sight, preferably with an adapter, I finally joined the reserves and the unit was missing sights. Looking for one, I had one during my mandatory service. Another ad in which an armoured corps officer asked for a helmet, vest and ceramic shield. If there are people here who are done with the equipment and believe in simply passing on their equipment, I'm more than happy to accept it. Even receives critical responses from people who suggested that he open his wallet instead of expecting people to open their hearts to him. And when the chaos in military equipment goes wild, the scammers and crooks also flourish. Although most of the online sales ads offer private equipment bought by donors, there are quite a few ads that offer stolen original IDF equipment. So an anonymous soldier was interviewed, and this is just an interesting experience they had. We were sent to the reserves on October 7th, but already on the way to the base, we were actually told not to arrive because there's a shortage of equipment and a shortage of weapons. That's when I realized how serious the situation is. I talked about it with a member of the team who was just on his way to the synagogue, so he raised a few thousand shekels from the worshippers on the spot, with which we bought knee pads that very day so our knees wouldn't break. But the situation is much more serious than a lack of knee pads. When we arrived at the unit, we saw that there was not enough weapons for everyone. People came with bloodstone shoes, they didn't have infantry shoes. They all had iron sights instead of optical sights. There just wasn't enough equipment. It makes me very annoyed because we were always told regularly that in war, the military uniform storage units would be opened and everyone would receive knee pads, a vest, a helmet and night vision. But in practice, there was nothing. There was a feeling of panic. G's goal was to get a donation of an optical sight, a goal he eventually achieved with the help from outside Israel. The matter with the iron sights was very annoying. We have to shoot at long ranges and it doesn't make sense. My wife has an uncle in America in a strong Jewish community. They raised several million shekels, some from New York and some from Florida, and not just for our unit. They donated equipment to us and some of it was stolen by people posing as soldiers. G explains that he did not coordinate the donation with any official in the IDF because he does not trust them. If I had talked to them, they would have wanted it for their own purposes. We saw with our own eyes soldiers from the logistics corps walking around with mountain boots taking the donations for themselves. G also knew that if he reported that he had obtained a donation of mountain shoes, the IDF would not provide them with such shoes. After all, they already have them. So the propaganda of the IDF and from Israel generally is that the whole of society is united in at least the war effort, right? They're all in this together. Even though a lot of them hate Netanyahu, they're all in the war together. They all have each other's back because that's what makes Israel strong. But it's pretty clear a lot of people in Israel are divided on this because they don't really care about, you know, your fellow Israelis' success in what they're doing, because they're like, yeah, if you want equipment, buy it yourself. I'm not giving you mine. I'm selling this for a massive inflated price, or I'm going to steal other people's equipment, or the IDF itself is going to give equipment donated to reservists to the actual professional IDF soldiers, because yeah, the IDF don't care about reservists either, and reservists should realise that you're going to be seen as far less valuable as a professional soldier because you're not seen as committed enough. So maybe, Israelis, if any of you ever watch this, don't serve in your military as a conscript because you're going to be treated like absolute shit and you're going to have to rely on fanatical Americans who love the idea of Israel probably even more than you to actually fund and donate to you so you can serve in the IDF. And although Israel might have been founded on collectivist principles, it's pretty clear these days a lot of those reservists and professional soldiers, they're more capitalistic. And again, they will hoard their military equipment so they can sell it rather than give it to someone who's just about to do their service. So I find this whole thing so funny. And again, it shows to me how much of a paper tiger the IDF probably is, in that if they actually had to fight a war against a more modern military, let's say like the Iranian military, then they probably wouldn't do so well, considering they're already losing the war right now. They're terrified of getting into a war with Hezbollah, but we're also meant to believe they're one of the most, powerful militaries in the entire region. The only reason that is because it has nuclear weapons and it's backed by the West. And I bet if it didn't have either of these things, it would be far less emboldened. And if it didn't have Western support, it would be far less emboldened. So that's why it's important that the West don't support this. But again, because of a multitude of reasons, for geopolitical reasons, and ultimately in the service of capitalism, the US, UK, all these countries are always going to back Israel, no matter what it does. But I do find it funny for a country that receives so much aid from the US, it still can't fund its military properly. And it's the Israeli conscripts that will learn this lesson the hard way. But again, Israeli conscripts, stop serving. Make a bigger movement to stop serving, because that should make you realize that your government does not care about you and will happily send you into battle wearing equipment from the Vietnam War. Anyway, that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.